February 9th, Unrivaled vs. Rose, 110,000 people. Vinyl vs. Phantom, 0.02 or below. Viewers in the millions, not applicable. It is such a low number, the TV ratings guide can't even find it in among their templates to put out. Oh, we don't even have that number. Oh, wow, that's really bad.
110,000 viewers, that's what Unrivaled drew this past Monday, February 9th on TNT. To put that in perspective, reruns of Friends would have outperformed that number. Reruns of Law and Order from 1990 would have crushed it. This isn't just a bad rating. This is a network executive's nightmare, and it's happening during what should be prime time for women's basketball.
Unrivaled Season 2 has been a disaster. They've lost nearly 50% of their entire viewership, and the ratings are in for this past Monday. Not only is it amongst the lowest I've seen this year, it's amongst the lowest I've seen in the history of Unrivaled. These past two seasons, Season 1 and Season 2, this past Monday was amongst the worst. How bad must that product be for people, for the 130,000 that usually watch, the 145,000 that usually watch, to say, I'm good. On a Monday following the Super Bowl. No Super Bowl to compete with, no college football playoff to compete with. You guys have an open Monday.
Here's what makes this catastrophic Monday, February 9th, had no competition, no Super Bowl, no college football playoffs. The sports calendar was wide open, and Unrivaled had TNT's full backing. This was their moment to prove the concept works. Instead, they posted one of the lowest ratings in the league's two-season history. The 1849 demographic, the one advertisers actually pay for, came in at 30,000 viewers. If you're a brand that bought ad space for that time slot, you're making phone calls right now.
And the one-on-one for Unrivaled started yesterday, so it couldn't have come at a better time to try to boost these back up. The Angel Reese return couldn't have came at a better time, but I will say this. After that 1v1 rating, Angel Reese comes back and these numbers are still looking like that. I would be surprised if after 3 years, HBO goes back. I would not be surprised if they take it off TV entirely and just put it behind the HBO Max paywall. That wouldn't surprise me. If this just turns into a paywall type of product. You put on reruns of Friends, it's outdrawn this. You put reruns of King and Queens, it outdraws this. Law and Order from back in the day, 1990 Law and Order, it's outdrawing this.
The numbers tell a brutal story. Season 2 has lost nearly 50% of the viewership from Season 1. That's not a dip, that's a freefall. And when your ratings drop so low that the TV ratings guide lists them as not applicable because they don't even have a template for numbers that small, you've entered crisis territory. Last season, the highest-rated Unrivaled content was the one-on-one tournament, so the league brought it back, launching yesterday in what should have been a strategic ratings boost. Angel Reese returned from injury at the perfect time to capitalize on that format. But here's the problem. If the one-on-one tournament and Angel Reese's comeback can't move these numbers significantly, what will?
The owner recognized what the players do not. There would be no surge in viewership without Caitlin Clark. For the billionaire owners, this is about dominance and control over women. Owners can survive a strike just fine. This is about showing who is boss and who is powerless. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think this is about wanting to make money or not wanting to make money. This isn't about dominance or control. What about the owners in the NBA? What about the owners in the NFL? They dominate men too. So please, save your virtue signaling for somewhere else. She's been mailing this for several weeks now. What else she's gonna say, really, with her pre-PR 101 level of media savvy? If nothing else, it diverts attention away from her conflict of interest, holding her executive committee position of power in the union. Cece and Neko all say the same thing to project optimism. Soon we're not going to care if they sign it or not. We're starting not to care anymore, by the way.
And this is where it gets uncomfortable for everyone involved. Brandon Stewart says there's momentum on the CBA negotiations. Quote, "Our recent CBA proposal that we got, there's movement, there's traction, we're finally headed in a direction." Fans heard that and collectively rolled their eyes, because they've heard this exact script before: momentum, traction, progress, movement. These are public relations talking points, not actual negotiation updates. When your league is hemorrhaging viewers and your players are giving vague optimism about contract talks that have dragged on for 18 months, people stop caring about both problems simultaneously.
Great, just from being able to hear the perspective of both sides, from the league side, from the player side, and what we want. So our recent CBA proposal that we got, there's movement, there's like traction. We're finally like headed in a direction. So I'm excited to hopefully negotiate back.
Right.
And really kind of do the negotiations, because unfortunately it's been like 18 months and we haven't like negotiated. We've been
Listen to how she describes the negotiation timeline. 18 months without actual back and forth talks, just proposals going one direction. And then she pivots to blame the owners for not negotiating, which doesn't match the public record at all. We've watched the owners increase salary offers multiple times. We've seen them add commitments on revenue sharing, travel accommodations, expanded rosters. The owners have moved off their original position repeatedly. The players haven't budged once. That's not negotiation. That's making demands and waiting for the other side to meet them.
Over it all. On December 18th, the union voted to authorize calling a strike when necessary, and some voices around the league wondered if the time was drawing near. Brianna Turner, activist Brianna Turner, quote, "I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going, so I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment." Holy shit. Can you use the word like any more times? Folks, I gotta be honest. I might have lost brain cells reading that aloud. I may have lost brain cells. Here, you guys are gonna hear me say it one more time and tell me you didn't lose any brain cells. I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going. So I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment.
Then we get to Brianna Turner's comments to ESPN, and this is where you realize how fractured the players' messaging has become. Quote, "I feel like it's not imminent at this point. It's still early February, like we're still going, so I feel like we're still in a waiting game at the moment." Count how many times she says, like, and I feel like in that statement. This is someone who doesn't actually know what's happening in her own union's negotiations, and she's not alone. ESPN surveyed players about their confidence level in getting a deal done. The average anxiety rating was 3.2 out of 10. Most players said they aren't worried, or they're not going to worry about what's beyond their control. That should terrify the Players Association leadership, because it means the rank-and-file membership has no idea how precarious their position actually is.
For a lot. I know we deserve it, but at the same time, it's kind of like we're kind of getting greedy. We're doing a lot of asking. I feel like we need to do a lot of doing. Doing a lot of asking. I feel like we gotta do a lot of doing. We're getting greedy. Talking about how would a lost WNBA paycheck affect you? It would impact me immensely. It's my job, so it would be a big deal. Money is money. I would love my paycheck. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you with about negotiations? The players expressed uncertainty about the possibility of playing a full WNBA season. That didn't translate to significant anxiety about the negotiations. One person put her anxiety level at a 10, but the majority of players said they aren't worried, or at least they aren't going to worry about what's beyond their control. The average was 3.2.
Here's what happened that nobody's talking about. When the players voted to authorize a strike on January 18th, they gave away every ounce of leverage they had. Before that vote, individual players could pressure the executive committee by saying, "We need to see specific progress before we authorize this strike." They could have negotiated internally for what they needed to see in a deal before handing over that power. Instead, they authorized the strike immediately, which transferred all decision-making authority to the executive committee. Now those same players are telling ESPN they can't afford to miss a paycheck. They're saying they're getting greedy with their demands. They're admitting they need to do less asking and more doing, but it's too late. The executive committee controls everything now, and the players who actually need their WNBA salaries have zero ability to influence what happens next.
feel like we got to do a lot of doing. We're getting greedy. Talking about how would a lost WNBA paycheck affect you? It would impact me immensely. It's my job, so it would be a big deal. Money is money. I would love my paycheck. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you with about negotiations?
One anonymous player told ESPN, "I feel like we're asking for a lot. I know we deserve it, but at the same time, it's kind of like we're kind of getting greedy. We're doing a lot of asking. I feel like we need to do a lot of doing." Read that again. A WNBA player, speaking anonymously because she can't say this publicly, admits the union is getting greedy and needs to actually deliver something instead of just making demands that, quote, should be front-page news. Instead, it's buried in an ESPN article because it doesn't fit the narrative that the union wants to project.
The power now rides in the hands of the executive committee. The executive committee is with all the power now because you gave it to them. If the players never authorized a strike, then they could talk to the executive committee and say, hey, these are some things that need to get done in order for us to say, okay, we'll authorize a strike. These are some deals that we need from you, the executive committee, in order for us to authorize a strike. Because once we give the strike, we lose all our leverage, all our negotiating power. And they've officially lost it all. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate all the support. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. See you next time, and as always.
So now we've got two simultaneous crises that are feeding into each other. Unrivaled's ratings collapse demonstrates that WNBA players, even star players, cannot draw significant audiences outside of the WNBA season without Caitlin Clark. That's not opinion. That's measurable fact based on February 9th's numbers. Meanwhile, the CBA negotiations have stalled for 18 months because the Players Association authorized a strike before securing any actual concessions, which eliminated their leverage entirely. And here's why these two problems are connected. The owners are looking at Unrivaled's ratings and thinking, you want 50% revenue sharing based on what drawing power? The players are looking at those same ratings and thinking, we need the WNBA season to start because this isn't working, but they can't say that publicly because it undermines their negotiating position, except they don't have a negotiating position anymore. They gave it away on January 18th. Let's talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets really complicated. If Unrivaled's ratings don't improve significantly during the one-on-one tournament, and with Angel Reese back, HBO has a decision to make after year 3. Do they keep putting this on TNT, where it's getting outdrawn by 30-year-old Law & Order reruns, or do they move it behind the HBO Max paywall, where at least the low viewership doesn't create embarrassing trade press articles? Moving it to streaming only would be a death sentence for Unrivaled's mainstream credibility, but keeping it on TNT with these numbers is unsustainable. Networks don't accept not applicable ratings for long, no matter how much they believe in the concept or the athletes involved. On the CBA front, the players have backed themselves into a corner. They authorized a strike, which means the executive committee can call one at any time, but multiple players have now admitted they can't afford to miss paychecks. So what happens when the executive committee, led by Breanna Stewart and Nneka Ogwumike, decides it's time to strike? Do the players who need that income just accept it, or do we see an internal revolt where rank-and-file members realize too late that they gave away their power? The owners know all of this. They can see the same ESPN quotes we can. They know some players are scared about missing paychecks. They know some players think the union is getting greedy, so why would the owners make significant concessions right now? The longer this drags out, the more pressure builds on the players' side, not the owners' side. The owners can survive a strike just fine. They've been funding a league that loses money for years. Missing one season doesn't change their long-term calculation. But for players whose WNBA salary is their primary income, missing one season could be financially devastating. And those players just told ESPN they're at a 3.2 anxiety level out of 10. They're not worried yet, but they should be. Here's the other factor nobody's discussing openly. Caitlin Clark's absence from these conversations is deafening. She hasn't made public statements about the CBA negotiations, she hasn't joined Breanna Stewart's media tour about momentum and traction, she's staying completely out of it. And that's strategic, because Clark knows something the rest of the league is slowly figuring out: her value is completely different from everyone else's. When Unrivaled draws 110,000 viewers without Clark, and the WNBA drew 3.2 million viewers for Clark's games last season, that's not a marginal difference, that's a completely different product. Clark can negotiate from a position of strength that no other player in the league has, so why would she tie herself to a union strategy that's clearly failing? The answer is she wouldn't, and she hasn't. Which means when this CBA deal finally gets done, if it gets done, there's going to be a massive disparity between what Clark gets individually and what everyone else gets collectively. And that's going to create resentment that makes last season's rookie hazing look like nothing. Think about what we've actually learned from the past 2 weeks. Unrivaled posted catastrophic ratings despite having no competition and TNT's full support. The Players Association has been negotiating for 18 months without moving off their original demands. The owners have increased their offers multiple times, while the players haven't budged. Individual players are anonymously admitting they're getting greedy and can't afford a strike, but they already authorized one anyway. And Caitlin Clark is staying completely silent about all of it. This isn't momentum, this isn't traction, this is a slow-motion disaster where everyone can see what's coming, but nobody has the leverage to stop it. The players gave away their leverage when they authorized the strike too early. The owners have no incentive to make major concessions when Unrivaled's ratings prove most WNBA players can't draw audiences independently. And the one player who actually has individual leverage is smart enough to stay out of the collective bargaining mess entirely. So when Breanna Stewart says there's movement and progress, what she really means is we're hoping the owners don't realize how weak our position actually is. When players tell ESPN they're not worried about negotiations, what they really mean is we don't understand what we've gotten ourselves into. And when Unrivaled draws 110,000 viewers on a Monday night with no competition, what that really means is the entire economic model of women's basketball outside of the WNBA season is fundamentally broken. Here's my question for you: if you're a WNBA player who needs that salary and can't afford to miss a season, what do you do right now? You already voted to authorize a strike, you can't take that back. The executive committee controls everything, and the owners know you're scared. Do you trust Breanna Stewart and Nneka Ogwumike to get you a deal before they call a strike you can't afford? Or do you start wondering if you made a massive mistake on January 18th? Because based on these unrivaled ratings and these anonymous ESPN quotes, a lot of players are starting to ask themselves that exact question, they just can't say it out loud yet. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do the players still have any leverage left, or did they give it all away when they authorized that strike? And what happens to Unrivaled if these ratings don't improve? Hit that like button and subscribe, because this CBA situation is going to get a lot messier before it gets better.